Hey guys, it's me again. I'm just making a short video to exposit my thoughts on the whole firestorm with Ron Paul and his son. If you're totally in the dark about what's been going on, Ron Paul is the most popular pro-liberty candidate participating in the Republican nominations. He is a fearsome constitutionalist, which is why both he and his son Rand are well respected by their friends and foes. I've been keenly watching this whole process since it began, with great hope that the unthinkable would happen, that Ron Paul would be nominated to run against Barack Obama. As unlikely as that sounds, there actually was a strategy for how this would happen. If he had managed to break even with his rival Mitt Romney in terms of their delegate numbers, then that would have led to a brokered convention where all the delegates are free to pick as they choose. If that had happened, Ron Paul was expected to win by a narrow margin, and then go on to slaughter Obama. Unfortunately, my dreams were crushed last Thursday when Ron told his delegates going to Tampa that their combined numbers are not enough to win the nomination, which is a really pessimistic interpretation. To add insult to injury, Ron also asked his supporters to, quote, be respectful. Be respectful of whom, Mr. Paul? Of an election process who has defrauded you out of 1 million odd votes? Of an establishment who stigmatizes and assaults your supporters? Does that make any sense? Just what is going on here? Why the sudden bout of defeatism? A lot of questions about Ron Paul's honesty has been raised by characters like Webster Tarpley. In a debate he had with Alex Jones, which had me reeling, I found out about the many strange actions that he had been caught doing. In the middle of the Republican race, back when Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum were still in the running, Ron Paul decided not to contest the votes of several states, which I thought was odd at the time. Maybe it would have costed a lot of money to actually win them, but he could have economized and skipped on the TV ads. It would have at least given people the option of actually voting for him, and forced the local districts to engage in active deception, which they were caught doing numerous times in other states. But no, Ron decided to just give up and let the good old boys have their way. Another suspicious thing that Ron was guilty of was delivering the softball attacks on Mitt Romney. The worst name he ever got called was flip-flopper. Gee, that really must have hurt his feelings. It's almost like he was trying not to burn the bridge between them, in case they ever needed to come to a bargain in the future. Furthermore, why did Ron have to be pushed to support the Walter Jones bill to impeach Obama in the event that he launches another war? Something just doesn't add up. And all these that Webster had brought up left me feeling sick to my stomach. I sent the video off to my pal Ryan Dawson. He's a geopolitical analyst with a lot more experience and finesse than me. He's the guy who did the documentary War by Deception and wrote a book called Welcome to the USSR. Clever play on words, that one. I thought he'd have something constructive to say on the subject, maybe a video addressing all these points, but instead there was just silence. Then, a few days later, all the stuff that I mentioned at the beginning took place. Ron Paul threw in the towel and Rand Paul, his son, endorsed Mitt Romney. Alex Jones basically came out and disowned the Pauls. You can't really blame him for that. He's been endorsing them ever since he got on the air back in '96, and he ignored all the warning signs that foretold the direction Ron was heading in. So Alex was made to look like a fool because he'd been backing up these guys who sold out in the worst way imaginable. The liberty movement has been split in two, with half following the Pauls and the other half running as far away from them as you can get. All the progress we've made over the last few months has been nullified. And then you've got the other factions, people like Ryan Dawson, who are in total denial, refusing to face the fact that Ron Paul has either been blackmailed or decided to compromise his principles in order to achieve some nebulous political goal. You've got to understand, Ryan's been behind Ron Paul for over a decade and has followed in his footsteps for almost as long as Alex Jones. Speaking of which, I notice he has a lot of animosity towards Alex. Supposedly it's because he doesn't talk about the Zionist angle, which is not a big deal in my book, because everyone knows that the Jews are at the center of this whole thing, even hardcore AJ fans, so it's not like he's leading people down a false path. Personally, I think Ryan is jealous because he's never achieved Alex's fame and prominence in the liberty movement. It's too bad, really. Ryan's a great guy, he's well learned, well spoken, has a great knowledge of Middle Eastern politics, but he never made it into the big leagues. Stuff like that happens, man, that's just how life is. But anyway, there's all these fantasies going around about how Ron Paul is going to contest the process at Tampa, and if he doesn't win, then he's going to run third party. That's not going to happen. Sorry, dude. It just isn't.